The idea that Daniel's 70th week has taken place in the past first originated with Origen, one of the early church fathers. He was one of the first ones to write about it, more dynamically presented by one of Origen's followers, Augustine. Augustine was maybe one of the most brilliant men of the AD 400s, and he presented this idea of Daniel's 70th week being fulfilled in the past. Now, if you think about it, and you think about where they were at, these two brilliant men, Origen, Augustine, and Augustine presented this idea, and he basically persuaded everybody at the time. From Augustine's time on till the 1800s, nobody suggested, at least in writing, nobody suggested anything other than that Daniel's 70th week took place in the past. But if you think about these men and where they were coming from, Israel had been destroyed basically. Hadrian in AD 132 destroyed the city and dispersed the children of Israel throughout the world. They weren't a country anymore. Jerusalem wasn't occupied by descendants of Jacob. There was no temple. And humanly speaking, there wasn't any hope of there ever being a temple again, or that the nation would ever be brought back together again. So it's easy to see why these brilliant men came up with this idea. But I want to tell you why that Daniel's 70th week has to be in the future. It has not been fulfilled in the past. First of all, the first reason is that Daniel's 70 weeks take place in sequential order. That's a simple but dynamic idea, because we know that the end of Daniel's 69th week was when Jesus died on the cross. Before that, no part of Daniel's 70th week could be taking place. No person, no event, nothing that would be a part of Daniel's 70th week could have been a fulfillment of that previous to Jesus' resurrection. And Jesus' ministry has been suggested as part of Daniel's 70th week. Antiochus Epiphanes and the time frame around his destruction of Jerusalem has been suggested as part of Daniel's 70th week. But neither one of those could possibly be, because they took place before the end of the 69th week. So they cannot be a part of Daniel's 70th week. The second thing is that the Daniel's 70th week does not take place during the era of the church. It's Israel. It's nothing to do with the church. So it's going to be after the era of the church. It's not going to take place during the era of the church. And the era of the church began the moment that Jesus died on the cross. The third thing is that there's been no unmistakable fulfillment of this prophecy in the past. Now, there's been all kinds of suggestions, and the reason for that is that there are no exact fulfillments of it. They suggest the time of Titus around 70 AD. They suggest around Hadrian in 132 AD. They suggest, as I said, Antiochus Epiphanes in the BCs. They suggest any number of things, but none of those clearly and unmistakably fulfill Daniel's 70th week. The fourth thing is the huge portion of Scripture that speak of this event. Matthew 24 Jesus called it the sign of his second coming. This short period of time, 7 years, at least 7 years, and a portion of years beyond that, but a short period of time before his second coming is the sign of his second coming. And you see references to this time frame, this tribulation transition, what I call it. You see references to that in almost every book in the Bible. There's more to do with this period of time than any other event in the Bible other than the gospel story. The sixth thing is that Antichrist is revealed during this 70th week. Has Antichrist been revealed? I mean, in the past, Hitler was a type of Antichrist. I mean, Antiochus Epiphanes was a type of Antichrist. Titus, Hadrian, others were types of Antichrist, but they were not the end times man of sin. They were not the son of perdition. They were not the Antichrist that will be revealed in the future 7-year period and a few years beyond that. The final thing, the final reason why Daniel's 70th week did not happen in the past and is in the future is because the consummation of Israel happens at the conclusion of Daniel's 70th week. This is when Israel receives eternal righteousness, all the promises that are given in verse 24 of Daniel chapter 9. All of those great things that are presented for Israel are at the conclusion, at the consummation of Israel, at the end of Daniel's 70th week. And that has not happened.